As the 2026 offseason arrives, no storyline sits bigger than the future of Giannis Antetokounmpo and his place with the Milwaukee Bucks, a franchise he transformed from the ground up into a championship team and a consistent contender. No trade has actually happened. Giannis is still under contract, and as of June 2026, everything remains open. Yet reports continue to point toward Milwaukee exploring trade options, while league executives believe something real could develop before the NBA draft. To understand why this situation carries so much weight, you have to go back to where it started, because in 2013, the Bucks selected Giannis with the 15th overall pick in the NBA draft, a raw prospect nobody fully understood at the time, but what followed completely changed the franchise's direction. MVP awards came in 2019 and again in 2020, and by 2021, he had already carried Milwaukee to an NBA championship, ending a long drought and locking in his legacy as the centerpiece of the organization. That foundation only grows heavier when you look at what he's accomplished in Milwaukee's record books, since Giannis currently leads the franchise in games played with 895, while also holding the top spot in points at 21,531, rebounds at 8,882, assists at 4,484, and blocks at 1,088. Numbers that place him at the center of nearly every major category in Bucks history. And that's when the conversation shifts from greatness to uncertainty, because when a player owns that much of a franchise's identity, even the idea of moving him becomes something the league cannot ignore. What nobody expected was how quickly things changed during the 2025-26 season, where Giannis appeared in just 36 games, the lowest total of his career, and on March 15, 2026, a left knee hyperextension altered the rest of the year for both him and Milwaukee. The Bucks never recovered from that stretch, and the result was a missed playoff appearance, their first since the 2015-16 season, which immediately shifted the pressure onto every decision the front office would make next. That collapse is where the trade conversation started gaining real traction, and reports began circulating that Milwaukee was actively evaluating its options, while teams across the league started preparing for a scenario that once felt impossible. What followed was a growing belief around the NBA that Giannis could realistically be moved before the draft, and that shift alone changed how front offices began planning their offseason strategies. Timing now becomes a central factor in everything, because Milwaukee has been working toward clarity on Giannis's future ahead of the June 23, 2026 NBA draft, a deadline that quietly adds urgency to every discussion taking place behind the scenes. The Bucks must decide if they can still build a contender around him, while rival teams calculate how far they are willing to go, and Giannis himself becomes the final piece in a decision that shapes the direction of multiple franchises. Contract details only raise the stakes even further, since Giannis remains under contract through the 2026-27 season with a cap hit of approximately $58.5 million, followed by a player option worth about $62.8 million for 2027-28. And here's the thing, those numbers don't just reflect salary, they represent the level of commitment any acquiring team would need to take on while balancing both performance expectations and long-term planning. Miami keeps coming up at the center of discussions, with reports noting that conversations involving the Heat intensified during June 2026 over a span of roughly 7 to 10 days. And one report even stated Giannis had focused on wanting to be a member of the Miami Heat. That development instantly elevated Miami's position in the rumor cycle, especially considering their history as a destination for star players and their ability to retool quickly around elite talent. Boston enters the conversation from a different angle, with the Celtics repeatedly mentioned as another serious possibility, although their path toward a deal depends heavily on how willing they are to part with key assets and how aggressive they choose to be in negotiations. What makes Boston complicated is not interest, but cost, because matching Milwaukee's expectations would require a level of sacrifice that reshapes their roster structure entirely. And that's when the league-wide picture becomes clearer, because Milwaukee's asking price is described in simple terms: the moon, meaning a package built around major draft capital, young players, and potentially multi-team structures that expand the deal beyond just two franchises. The result is a situation where even serious contenders may need outside help to make the math work. Different viewpoints continue to shape the debate, with one side arguing that Milwaukee should move Giannis now, since his value may never be higher after a season where he played only 36 games and the team missed the playoffs entirely. That argument focuses on maximizing return while the opportunity still exists, especially after a disappointing year that exposed roster limitations. On the other side sits the belief that moving a player like Giannis would be nearly impossible to replace, since franchise-level stars who win MVPs and championships do not come around often. And Milwaukee still has a better chance competing with him than without him, even after setbacks. And that tension between value and loyalty is exactly what makes this situation so difficult for the organization to navigate. When you step back and look at everything together, the broader impact becomes impossible to ignore, because Giannis is not just another all-star, but one of the defining players of his generation, and any move involving him would instantly reshape championship odds across the league. Front offices would adjust, rival teams would react, and future free agents would take notice of a league that suddenly looks very different overnight. At this point, nothing has been finalized, no trade has been completed, and discussions are still ongoing as Milwaukee continues evaluating its direction while the basketball world waits for a decision that could define the next era of the NBA. What happens next with Giannis Antetokounmpo is not just about one franchise anymore. It has become a league-wide turning point that could alter everything from contenders to rebuilds in a single move.